Let's go. Let's go. It's a Tuesday night and I'm ready to party. Let's go. I think one of you guys said we're 2 months away from the start of the season. We are T-Bob A-Bear away from the start of the season. 53 days to the start of the season. I want to share a statistic for you, and this is what's really interesting. We talk so much about the LSU defense last season being bad, right? And tonight we're going to get into Kamari Wilson. We're going to get into so many different things, right? But you know what's very interesting is on a points per possession basis, LSU's offense ranked 83rd in college football last season. And guess what? LSU's defense also ranked 83rd in points per possession last season. So as much as we've made fun of the LSU defense, it was also the LSU offense that wasn't necessarily the best. Now, I understand. We played all these different true freshman quarterbacks. But I want to point out a point a national college football website made, the College Football Nerds. They said it's very interesting, and once again, this is coming from a national perspective, that the quarterback who played by far the toughest defenses on the roster is the one that is no longer there, and rightfully so. Max and Miles are better than TJ. But it is interesting that Miles Brennan, in his 3 games, he did not play one of the better defenses in the SEC. Played all bottom half. Well, Mississippi State was pretty good, but still. And Max Johnson, of course, played Florida, who had a decent defense, and Ole Miss, who didn't have a good defense at all. So it is interesting. I just wanted to share that because we go into the season not knowing who the dominant number 2 option is going to be. We don't know who the lead running back is going to be. We have an idea of how the offensive line is going to line up, yet we kind of don't. So we will see what happens going into next season. And I can't wait to see what happens. I really can't. So we welcome in Paris, Kenneth, Cliff, Mick. Mick, you were in here earlier than basically anyone. Preston, it's about time. Yeah, I've been wondering where you were. Deuces up to you, my guy. Everyone shout out Paris. She is on time tonight. How about it? I love it. And I'm pretty fired up. Paris normally joins in like at the 3-hour mark, and I love it. And she just changed her avatar in 2 seconds. I love it. I don't think TJ beats out Bo, to be honest. I don't either. Well, we'll see. Bo Nix, who has 3 years of eligibility remaining. We say hi to Dwayne. What's up, Dwayne? How you doing, my guy? It is still kind of weird that TJ Finley decided to go there, right? That is such an interesting destination, right? So yeah, we look at the we look at the LSU offense going into next year, and I'm not gonna lie, I look also at the 2018 offense going into the 2019 offense, and we weren't too hyped about that either, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, Kenneth, that could very well happen. It really could. What's up, Big Al? Preston says, I still watch every video. Thank you. I can't pay rent unless you guys watch every video. Remember that. If you ever skip a PHL video, you're hurting the Z Fund. But if you did miss one, you can always help out with the Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat. if this just happens to be your first ever live stream, the rules are simple. All right. They're very simple, in fact. We go through different topics, but we immediately go to your LSU football topic of choice with a $1 donation all the way up to whatever you want it to be. Okay. And there's multiple ways you can do that. Yeah, I agree with you, Mick. No true freshman quarterback should ever play. There are rare exceptions to this, such as this guy right here. I only ripped one box of this. They're quite expensive. I was able to get one for cheap. This guy could start as a true freshman. But then again, he had a great offensive line, a great coaching staff, and an elite running back and elite defense behind him. Okay, LSU didn't have all those things for a true freshman quarterback to deal with. What's up, Biscuit? And in the ACC, true. Yeah, Preston, it is interesting whenever you ask Auburn fans about TJ. They're a little more open to it. I think here's why I think Bo Nix will actually be good. Okay, we go to Barrett's here. Thoughts on Pig Cage to transfer DB, hearing great things about him, and no quarterbacks at media day. Okay, let's start with the second part of this. So I've been to 4 SEC media days. I've done my radio show at 4 different SEC media days, and they're chaotic. It's kind of weird how it works. Coaches and players fly in on a private jet. They come do their interviews, and they do 1,000 different interviews, right? And then they come in, and then they come out. And what's interesting is that there's only so many slots that are allowed to come to SEC media days. It used to be 3 players per team, and now there's only 2. So if you were to bring one quarterback or the other, then you would be essentially announcing your starter at this point. So I like the idea of not bringing a quarterback to SEC media days, and I'm totally fine with that. I really am. Of course, there was no SEC media days last year, and I think Austin Deculus and Derek Stingley Jr. are the 2 best picks. Kayshawn would have been interesting. I can understand why they chose Deculus because he's older. Same thing with Sting. So I wouldn't take too much away from that. And yeah, now Pig Cage, the transfer DB. Yeah, you see him working out a bunch just through videos on social media. He's definitely a guy that's going to get some time on special teams. Now, how many snaps is he actually going to play on defense? I don't know. But what we do know is LSU does have a lot of different options now at the nickel. And LSU should not be bashful about switching new guys into that position. Trying Pig Cage there, trying Major Burns there, Sage Ryan, potentially Dwight McGlothern. So you can go on and on and on with that. Now, Pig Cage can play safety. Then Jay Ward could go play the nickel, a position I think he could be actually pretty good at. So yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, SEC shorts are fantastic. What year is Pig Cage in? Well, he's technically still a freshman. It's weird now because last year didn't count to get your eligibility. So he has 4 years of eligibility remaining. But yeah, this is going to be one of our questions. Cliff is already on this. Bold prediction, Jordan Tolles is the breakout star on defense. And I just slobbered really badly because I ate some crackers. I'm sorry about that. That was very smooth. Yeah, I could see that. I think LSU is going to give him his opportunity. I really do. Big Al, not only do I remember that at 2019 SEC Media Days, Kellen Mond announced to the world he was the best quarterback in the SEC. I also remember this. Kellen Mond. I was actually at that SEC Media Days, and in 2018, before the 2019 season, Kellen Mond also said, and this was really fascinating. Or what's this? Let me see. Yes, he also said that he felt the LSU defense getting tired, that they didn't have the same amount of endurance in the 7 overtime game, and that's why they won. That they had more desire, and then we all remembered what happened in 2019. Mick, we'll get into some recruiting a little bit later. But yeah, I think Paris hammered this home. Harold Perkins is definitely up there. He's probably number 1, if not number 2, as far as non-offensive linemen are concerned, because he's really good, right? Let's see. Yeah, you remember that? Okay. I was trying to remember it. I was like, wait, hold on. I remember Kellen Mond saying something else ridiculous. But yeah. It's interesting that some people think Kellen Mond is going to be a great NFL quarterback, right? I'm like, really? So yeah, there's an interesting analytic that my buddy CFB Matrix put out, Big Al, that basically said the following, right? You have to dominate in college for you to be a good NFL quarterback. There is heavy correlation with players that dominate in college that also succeed in the NFL. What's up, Carvis? Good to see you, my man. Carvis. Kenny Trill Hill. I love it. I love me some Kenny Trill Hill. So, let's go to the leadoff question for tonight. What's up, Go Tigers? That's probably like the best name in the world. Just Go Tigers. Go Tigers, go. I know, Paris. I don't know. I think Kellen Mond played 4 years at Texas A&M, and I still don't know if he was good or bad, right? Because he wasn't bad, but he definitely wasn't great. He was somewhere between meh and good, right? Like, he was never like just awful, like Conor McGregor and his ankle in its current state awful. He was never like that awful. But he was I don't know, it was weird. Zach, where you been, my guy? Okay, way. What's good? So yeah, let's go ahead and start off with the leadoff question here for tonight. Cliff's already pointed this out. Who is your breakout star for 2021? Now, there is a qualifier. Before you answer, there is a qualifier. All right. Breakout star means a player who wasn't really a starter or really good player from 2020. So someone like Jordan Tolles would be a breakout star. Who is a deep cut breakout star for next season? Give me your answers in the comment section below. Your breakout star. Yeah, go Tigers. It was kind of a broad question. Yeah, yards per play. I like that. Jack Bech, there you go. Big Al heard Ed Orgeron this morning with Jacob and T-Bob. Preston, that's actually a really good answer. Dwight McGlothern. Look at it this way. If Stingley or Ricks gets hurt, it's the Dwight McGlothern show. Oh, Jalari, yeah, that'll count. Cam Wire and Jaquelin Roy, yeah, those are two good picks. Micah Baskerville, Big B, Jay Ward. Go Tiger, says Jay Ward. John Emery all day. AG2, really? Let's see. K-Way, what do you have to say, my guy? Coy Moore. So I'm going to give you two, all right? And I'm talking about some deep cut guys. I think one guy, Anthony Bradford. Look, I've watched enough LSU football over the past month from 2020, and I really do try my hardest, okay, to look for snaps where where Jason Hines dominated or was decent. And I couldn't really find many, right? I went back and watched the spring game. Saw some things that I liked, some things that I didn't. So I think it's going to get to the point where Anthony Bradford is just going to win this job. So that's my breakout star. My actual deep cut breakout star was Cam Wire. I don't think, now that he is a bona fide starter, what I thought was going to happen with Cam Wire was that he was going to beat out Hines or Deculus after a week or two. So that's obviously not going to happen. So I'm going to go Anthony Bradford on offense. And then on defense, if you want a deep cut on defense, I really do think Mike Jones is going to be really good. I do. I know that's not really a bold take. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't ever wish anyone to transfer per se, but it does sting a little more that Dare Rosenthal was probably the best offensive lineman going into this next season. I will say this, though, that Ed Ingram is loved by the Reese's Senior Bowl. Okay, they tweet about him. I saw that they tweeted about him. They've already basically listed him on the roster. And Ed Ingram's spring game was something. It was fine. It wasn't dominant. I still haven't seen, his peaks have been really high. But then there are some snaps where it just, I don't know exactly what happens. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Mike Jones will be better than Jibril Cox. Yeah, okay. So we did the defensive film study earlier today. And by the way, if you're just now joining the live stream, we're at 48. That's a pretty good off-season number right there. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up button. Share the channel with your friends and family and cousins and side pieces. Share it with everybody. Okay. Also, I do want to touch on this Jibril Cox thing, right? So one thing that hurt the LSU defense, we did an LSU defensive film study earlier today about, the LSU defensive statistics. And there is a twist in the middle of the video, right? And you got to go check it out. There's a big twist, all right, a big plot twist. And, I won't reveal that. Watch it for yourself and see if you catch it. But anyway, one thing I saw consistently with the LSU defense was LSU's best linebacker was Jibril Cox. Okay. He was a linebacker who loved to cover, but not actually hit and tackle. Jacoby Stevens, a defensive back, was the opposite. He loved to hit and get into the box, but he hated to cover, right? So what happened with that is LSU at times, especially with Jacoby Stevens, would try to overcompensate with LSU's linebackers struggling to stop the run, okay? And it became an issue. LSU's defensive tackles weren't necessarily the best last season. Their linebackers became more confused with the run fits. The run fits were so bad they didn't make any sense at times, whose gap was whose. And then on top of that, it became an even bigger mess when the broken tackles started to pile up and the blown coverages and the lack of adjustments. And nothing could ever really get going. So yeah, it is very fascinating whenever you say, well, Mike Jones could be better than Jibril Cox. As a coverage linebacker, Mike Jones is really good. Jibril Cox had 352 coverage snaps last season with 0 penalties, 1 pick six, 1 interception return to the 1, another interception return for 10 yards. I mean, he was incredible. He is the best coverage linebacker maybe I've ever seen. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he is he's definitely the best I've seen at LSU, but he wasn't a complete linebacker, right? He wasn't, Devin White, obviously, but yeah. WME says David Price and Emory. Ed Orgeron not called out, but shouted out John Emery. I said John Emery. Well, he shouted out all his running backs this morning, so that's obviously good. Mick says Corey Kiner will be the man. Keaton, what's up, man? He says TDP and Emery will be the best running back duo in the country. Man, I'm fired up tonight. I really am. You know what's funny? A lot of you guys are watching this, and there's a lot on TV tonight, right? There's is the finals on tonight? I never really checked it. I know there's a home run derby and all that stuff last night, and that was the most fun I've ever had watching baseball. They had Griffey out there. They had all these people. No, Wednesday, this next finals game. But I was looking at it, and I was like, hold on. Baseball is starting to get better, right? And I'm starting to wonder, what does the future of college football actually look like? Okay. And I wanted to touch on this just for a little bit. Do you guys feel as if, and I honestly want to ask you guys this question, do you guys feel as if you're going to like college football more now with the NIL and the transfer portal? I feel like I'm going to like it more now, right? I think it's going to be so interesting that you can just go to another team and rip a kid off another team and put them on your own. I think that's going to be so fascinating. And I feel as if, and this is going to be an outside the box idea, and I talked about this on our video on Monday, I feel as if LSU could set up a potential farm system, right? You look at what happened here with Major Burns. He came back to LSU very quickly, even after what happened to him, allegedly. And yeah, I was like, really? Major Burns? He came back, and I was like, yeah, it's a home state school. It's a dream school. So I'm starting to think if this is going to really put LSU in a good spot, because you see this all the time, right? You see Louisiana 3 stars, and Major Burns was a 4-star, but You see Louisiana 3-stars all the time go to another school and they ball out, right? So what prevents LSU from going to those kids and say, look, you can come back to the home state school and you're obviously good enough to start right now. Come on back. So we'll see. A Max and Miles discussion is starting to break out. I'm all about it. Max and Miles. All right. So, yeah. Justin says the only thing I hate about the transfer portal is that if someone leaves, you can't replace them with another player. Yeah, here's what I think is going to happen with that, Justin. You're in here early. I'm going to answer your question. Okay. And Keaton, it's impossible to say if Miles would have lost in the swamp. Actually, I'll touch on that in a second. The only thing I hate about the transfer portal is that if someone leaves, you can't replace them with another player. Here's what I think is going to happen, Justin. I think they're going to make a rule where you can sign up to 2 or 3 extra players if one decides to leave. But what colleges fear is kids are going to get processed that are already on the team to open up a slot for another transfer. And that already does happen. And if you have an unlimited amount of kids you could sign in every class or get in the portal, you could easily see something like that happen. Now, the Dare Rosenthal thing, if it's that late, LSU should be able to have a slot open up. But that's the danger of this rule, right? That's why that's why small schools are debating whether or not increasing that number is actually a good thing or not. All right, it seems as if you guys want to talk Max and Miles. And that's fine with me. I don't think. Here's the one thing I don't like as far as a quarterback debate is concerned. The 1-2 versus 2-0 thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. When you play chaotic games like LSU did versus Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Florida, and Missouri, those games are coin flips, so they can legit go either way. And a lot of these struggles in that game for both of them were outside factors. I will still stand by this, though. As great as Miles' numbers were, there was no quarterback performance last season that touched Max Johnson against Florida. And something else you got to keep in mind is, what's up, Jason? Good to hear from you, my guy. And thank you for the super chat. So, Jason, you get to pick the topic. Pick whichever topic you want, Jason. Thank you so much for the biggest super chat. My friend Paris hooked us up earlier. So, Jason, you walk in. It's your topic. I cannot say this enough, though. Max won with a skeleton roster. And that is still the most impressive thing to me, right? By far, the most impressive thing about Max Johnson. Now, the Ole Miss game, I'm going to do a film study before the season on Max Johnson. And yeah, I'll show you what I feel about Max versus Ole Miss. I do like Max a lot. He has been listed as my QB1 for quite some time. So we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Max would have been 1-1 if it wasn't for Cole Taylor's shoe. So, yeah. But there's, and honestly, it goes up there with, it really is one of the best. I don't include Joe Burrow in this conversation because he's on such a different stratosphere. But Max's performance against Florida is one of the best you'll ever see. It's one of the best of all time at LSU. It really is. When you really consider who he was playing with, the two healthy running backs he was playing with, they're no longer with the program. Okay? The NFL level wide receivers were gone. And his offensive line disintegrated. His defense, even though the other team was missing their best player, was still very porous. It really was nuts that Max was able to pull it off. Now, he needed some luck, a lot of luck, but he was incredible. He was nothing short of incredible, especially considering in high school, Max Johnson was not a dominant high school quarterback. He was really good, but he wasn't dominant. So that was his first start since high school, and he dominated. But let's go to Jason Super Chat. So I'm just not catching it. You good with Stingley with returning punts, or would you roll with Palmer back there? I know Moore got reps there at the end of the year, but he's not near as fast as Palmer. Okay, great question here, Jason. Great question. So let's open it up. All right, let's open it up. And Jason, thank you so much for your generous Super Chat. I actually do want to spend some time on this, right? So we're talking about breakout stars. A lot of you think Trey Palmer is going to be the breakout star. So let's do this. Who should be LSU's punt returner next season? Type whichever name you want to type in there. You can even type their initials. Let me know. Jason, I needed that Super Chat. My God, my freaking God. I love you, Jason. Woo. Freaking fired up for that Super Chat. Share link right there. You can also support buying your PHL shirt. Mofunky says, good one. I like that. For those that don't know, Trey Palmer actually has a punt return touchdown. What is Palmer's 40? I don't know. I know he's really fast. I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you. Palmer punts, Sting kickoffs. No, not Sting on kickoffs. Kenneth, you're a good man, but I wouldn't do that. If you want to see how bad a kickoff return could be, if you go back and watch the LSU Ole Miss game, Trey Palmer got decapitated on a kickoff return last year. Kickoff is very dangerous. I would never put a player of Stingley's caliber back there returning kicks. So yeah. I do know Trey Palmer is a sub 11 100 meter. That's normally the cutoff, but now, LSU's got a lot of sub 11 100 meter guys. Goodwin, probably the fastest player on the team now. Goodwin, Hilton sub 11, Langlois sub 11, Sage Ryan is sub 11. So yeah, I could see one of the true freshmen being the kickoff returner. I appreciate you, Mick. Palmer is not a punt returner. He's a kickoff returner. There is a big difference. That's true, but Trey Palmer has returned a punt for a touchdown. Albeit it was garbage time. It's still good. So here's what I would do with it, Jason. I'm actually fine with Coy Moore returning punts. Not necessarily the most dangerous option, but he's got great hands. High IQ football player. So, I would love him returning punts over Derek Stingley. I don't blame Derek Stingley for not having a punt return touchdown. Punt return touchdowns, you need a lot of things to go your way. You need to have, low hang time. You need good blocking. You need all these different things. And, the 2019 offense was so good. The incentive to fair catch and secure the football was so high, right? Because you don't want to return and get a penalty or fumble. And Derek Stingley did have a punt return fumble against Auburn. So I defend Derek Stingley for not having a punt return up to this point. I just think it is risky to put him back there because of his injury history. And I understand it is highly unlikely LSU takes him off punt return. It is highly unlikely Derek Stingley Jr. wants to be off punt return, but we honestly don't know what exactly he would want to do, Jason. But yeah, I think Derek Stingley is far capable of being a punt returner. I would not mind Chris Hilton doing it, though. I'm a big Hilton guy as far as returning punts and just special teams in general. I think he'll be a good special teamer overall. So, yeah, kickoff return, I actually am on board with Armani Goodwin doing it as well. Kickoff return is more about speed. So, yeah, we'll see. We need the Honey Badger returning punts. You know what's funny, Mick? During the middle of my film study from earlier today, I stopped and watched Honey Badger highlights for about 20 or so minutes. And I think it's safe to say he is the best special teamer to ever play at LSU. Okay, when you really think about it, it doesn't make the highlight reels, but he made so many tackles on kickoff team. And he made so many plays as a gunner on punt team. The iconic Oregon fumble recovery. And you factor in his punt return touchdowns and just his overall impact. He forced so many fumbles and just made plays on kickoff. Yeah, he's the best. I mean, he's the best. Ron Brooks. Shout out. I miss Ron. Ron lived next door to me, and I loved him. I flat out loved him. He was such an interesting human being. Thank you. I love it. I love getting super chats like this. Can we get the DL like the Chavis era? Miss those days. A nasty, gritty attitude. Yeah. So, you look at the defensive line. It was Mingo, Montgomery, Benny Logan, and of course, Brockers. And that was a really good group. LeVar Edwards coming off the bench. That was just a good group. And I would say that was probably Chavis's best defensive line. Probably. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. That was his best defensive line. So yeah, those defensive lines were really good. Right. 2007. I guess that was that Bo's last season? I don't know. My years are running into each other. But yes, we definitely had some good defensive lines then. I'd have to look it up to see what years. Honey Badger was 10 foot tall. But you are right, Paris. That defensive line gets overshadowed by the defensive backfield, especially considering the pro success of Brockers and Logan. Neither were Pro Bowlers, but I don't think any one of us thought both of them would have lasted as long in the league. Michael Brockers has exceeded expectations. Honestly, I did not think Benny Logan would be the NFL player he was. He was really good. So yeah, it's very fascinating. There you go. Drive the dogs around. Yeah. Oh yeah. Man, Mingo speed was so unreal. It was really shown in that Oregon game. Let me pull this up. Yeah, that was the interesting thing was they got so many coverage sacks uh, because of the coverage on the back end. So Chavis was 2009 to 2014. So after that, it was Jamari Roscoe and those guys. So yeah, Roscoe, Daniil Hunter. Neither quite lived up to their expectations there, especially Hunter. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you are right. Let's see here. Mofuck, you said, good video today, Carter. Can you go into Havoc a little more? That's a good question. Also, something else about those defensive lines, Parrish, your super chat still up. It was very interesting. I think, we always discuss this on the channel. The guys that should have come back for an extra year. And I always go back. Anthony Freak Johnson should have come back for an extra year. Okay, there are some guys that come back that don't need to come back for that extra year. So like Glenn Dorsey was one of those guys. Didn't need to come back. All right. Anthony Johnson was the opposite. Left early, still flying off the 5-star hype. And he wasn't dominant at LSU. He was second team all SEC. I mean, he was okay. But I think if he would have come back for one more season and put better tape out there and would have dominated, they would have been in better shape. Now, LSU, I was never in love with Brick Lane. I liked Brick Haley. I liked Earl Lane a little bit more. Earl Lane was a defensive line coach before Brick Haley. Brick Haley wasn't that good at LSU. He was a good defensive line coach other places, just not at LSU. So, yeah, it is fascinating. So, yeah, Mo Funky, I'll talk a little bit more about Havoc. Paris, thank you so much for the super chat. I love it when the super chats ask throwback questions. I think you guys get pretty excited about that as well. So, Havoc's a good question. So earlier today, we did a deep dive on and a stat called Havoc played a role. And Havoc is different for different people. Some people, as far as Havoc is concerned, includes pressures, like pass rushing pressures. But for those that don't know, Havoc is a stat that tracks your defense's playmaking ability. So a tackle for loss is Havoc. A batted down ball at the line of scrimmage is Havoc. A pressure created is Havoc. An interception is Havoc. And last season, LSU dominated, and I mean dominated, Havoc. All right? They led the SEC, or they were top 3 in the SEC in Havoc percentage in the run and the pass. So what the film study earlier today showed was, even though LSU's defense was a playmaking defense, Ed Orgeron did accomplish what he wanted to do with the 4-3. He wanted his defensive line to be more aggressive, and he wanted them to be more playmakers. Obviously, I thought LSU's defensive end play was better than its defensive tackle play. Jaquelin Roy started to come on at the end of the year. Neil Farrell looks a lot better going into this next season. I just think Havoc is a good stat, but even when LSU had good Havoc rates, they still had their worst defense they've ever had. And the reason why is because, and this is going to be a bold statement, and a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but cliches are cliches for a reason. Winning at the line of scrimmage is very important, right? But now the most important thing is your coverage. It is by far your most important thing. How good is your secondary? And if your secondary is not good, guess what? You are going to run into issues. So LSU had such a bad secondary and such a bad back seven when it comes to scheme, not necessarily because of talent, but mostly because of scheme. Because their scheme was so bad, LSU, even though they generated all this pass rush, it didn't matter. They still gave up so many yards, so many touchdowns, so many explosive plays. Now, a lot of that was Bo Pelini. A lot of that was switching from a 3-4 to a 4-3, the pandemic. We can make all the excuses in the world, but the fact that nobody outside of Bo Pelini stepped in and adjusted a few things doomed us for near failure. And the game plan against Ole Miss and Florida was such lunacy. And I'll explain why in some film studies we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks. The game plan was so bad defensively. And I understand Bo Pelini knew he was on his way out, but I was just shocked that we still didn't change things up. So it's a very interesting thing. So that's what havoc basically means, Mo Funky. It's not an exact stat and means different things for different people, but it's still amazing that LSU generated all this pressure and they made all these plays, but at the same time, they were bad, really bad. Grant, that's tough. That's tough. So, Carter, can you get your all-time LSU team? I'll do that a little bit later, Grant. I do that. I think I've done that a few times. It's kind of hard. No, thank you, Mo Funky. I appreciate you. Let's see here. Fired up. Getting to the season. Let's see here. Let's go to this. The 3-and-go pro was part of the Les Miles recruiting procedure. Saban hates the 3-and-go pro deal. That's another reason Miles implemented it to out-recruit Saban. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting about Les Miles. They just had the other report about what happened at Kansas. And it goes to show you that you can legit win at LSU with a psychopath basically coaching you. So there was another report at Kansas, and I won't get too much into the details, but Coach O decided to do basically Oklahoma drills to hash out let me put it this way, a discomfort between two different teammates. So yeah, be very lucky that LSU is now, here with Ed Orgeron and a new program. But, this goes to show you, LSU has won a national championship with 3 different coaches, okay? This is not Clemson where it's an all Dabo thing. This is a program, right? You have advantages at LSU that other schools simply don't have. So, yeah. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Hey. Hey.
Let me show you something.
Everyone say hi. Z's coming in early tonight. Oh, God, Z. Z, get off my thumb. You're on my you're biting my thumb. Oh, my goodness.
I got her chew toy.
You got her chew toy?
I got her cold one. It's cold. Here.
You got her cold one?
Yeah.
So what does she do? Is it cold chew? So she's been teething. What is this? Is that what it does? What does it do?
It just feels good on her teeth when she's teething like this.
Oh, it's
she
just
played with one for 30 minutes a while ago.
She's soothing it?
Yes.
Oh my, look at you, baby. Getting her teething toy. So these teething toys were sponsored by Marcus. He's not in here right now, so we appreciate it. Marcus, with your super chats. All your super chats go to help. Z has shots on Thursday. Just numbs the gums. She always licks the mic. Aren't you so precious? Guys, we're doing teriyaki salmon night 2 tonight. I've never seen that. Can I touch it?
She is pissed.
It is kind of chilling.
It's been in the freezer. I have 2 of them to rotate. Oh, Jesus.
All right, come on. Come here.
Y'all missed off. She wanted you. I know it, baby. I know it.
AWME.
Hi.
Y'all didn't tell me teething toys. Well, those weren't that expensive, were they?
They're like $6 for 3-pack.
Well, that's not too bad. So, Marcus, thank you
for
getting us these teething toys. Your super chats go to support Z. She's got her second round of shots.
Don't hurt her.
I'm not hurting her. What are you talking about?
Well, you were like her neck.
Her neck?
Mama's.
My neck.
Stop.
Hey, Emma Cat. You almost missed Z. Everybody, look. Emma Cat, where have you been? Good to hear you. Yeah, motherfucker, you. Miles was just absolutely insane. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. I'm going to let you guys pick the next topic. Here's DBU7. What's up? In your mouth. What's good? Grant, here's what I'll do. You know, doing the all-time LSU team, I don't mind doing it. If I get a super chat, I'll do it right now. But it could be kind of lengthy because people want to talk more current stuff. So yeah, I understand.
Come on,
Gonzi.
Yeah.
Let's see, 3rd and 20.
Really cold. There she goes. Good girl. Good mom.
Finish the lyrics to that song or play neck. Huh?
She likes the dragon better. This is like that's a sloth.
That's a
She
sloth.
likes the dragon
There's a
better.
dragon one.
Yeah.
Huh?
What?
Mm.
I'm getting Wild Woman out. We'll be back later.
All right, they'll be back later.
Here, Mama. Here, Mama.
Z, you gotta love her. A few of you have reached out asking how Z's doing, how we're doing post bug. Everything's going good. Like Z actually has been pretty good. So yeah. Let's see. I will do this though. Let's see. All-time LSU team. It was Grant that asked about it. I will go out on a limb and say Joe Burrow would be my quarterback. I'm just gonna say that. But yeah, there we go. You forgot on 3rd and 20, we ran a max protect 2 wide receiver run go route play. What play was that? What play are you talking about? Let's see. Oh yeah, Kamari Wilson is in the title. So we'll touch on some recruiting. We normally do it about an hour in. You know what's interesting? I look at LSU's recruiting ranking and Monday's piece, and I know I've done a few pieces that kind of reference this. I'm starting to think, how many spots does LSU want to leave open for the transfer portal? And LSU has a little bit more of an incentive as well to take in transfers because, look, LSU's best players have been transfers. Some of their best players have been transfers. For the last 2 seasons, they've gotten 2 bona fide starters that played key positions as transfers. So how many slots do you leave open in the portal for transfers? Now, barring a disaster, it's going to be hard to see Mike Jones not being good at LSU. I think you have. I think if you leave yourself with less than 3 transfer slots, you're doing yourself a big disservice. I really am. Yeah, Bruce, 3 minimum. That's that great minds think alike. And especially considering a lot of your transfers that have gone to the league, it's going to be interesting. Zachary, that's not a good comparison because one's a quarterback and one's a linebacker. Devin White, I think the better question would be, was Devin White a better college linebacker than Joe Burrow was a college quarterback? Probably, even then, probably not. But Devin White was an overall better player over his 3-year time period. And Joe Burrow, of course, was great in 2018, but he's arguably the best to ever do it in 2019. So let's see. LSU continues to do well with the portal transfers. It's true. You know what, Ambercat, I have been watching some 80s and 90s clips. It's so weird thinking about like seeing Kev Falk and all those guys play. It is weird knowing like what they do now, like seeing Ryan Clark and Eddie Kinnison and all those guys still heavily involved with the LSU program. Yeah, I get your logic, Zachary, but Joe Burrow guarantees that you're going to win every game, because he was a perfect 15 for 15. Like that's the craziest thing about Joe Burrow is that it's not that, and Devin White was exceptional in basically every game he played as well, but Joe Burrow was exceptional every single game, playing the hardest position there is to play. And it's not good, not great, exceptional in every single game. 278 yards was the lowest amount of yards he threw in a game. And that was the first game of the season where he threw for 5 touchdowns and no picks. 291 was his second lowest, and that was against Florida. And he ran for over 70 yards in that game. So outside of that, when you throw for over 300 yards in 13 of 15 games, and your best game statistically came against the best teams, you lit up Alabama, you lit up Clemson, you lit up Georgia, you lit up Oklahoma. It's hard to compare. But then again, the better overall player, if you factor in, how exceptional were you in the 2 years that you started, Devin White was exceptional in the 2 years. It's just Joe Burrow playing the position that he played was just so beyond comprehension. It exceeded what a college quarterback could actually do. I honestly thought there would never be someone that would touch Cam Newton's 2010 season. And there's still a piece of me that thinks Cam Newton's 2010 season was the best we will ever see a quarterback have. But Joe Burrow had just as exceptional of a season. It was slightly different than Cam's, but, they're both on a pedestal on their own as far as individual seasons are concerned. And I never thought it would come on my own team. I never thought that that level of a player would ever play quarterback at LSU, and it did, and we're forever grateful for it. And it's just one of those things. Like it's strange. I know it's strange to talk about it like that, but the bottom line is it's true. It's true. Let's see. Stock up on DVs, OL, and cover LBs. Pegasus says, I heard Quincy Wiggins' interview today. Doesn't sound into us right now. So here's what I'll say to that, Pegasus, and I'll touch on this as well. I've gotten a few messages about this as well, including people that I know that are pretty well versed into what's actually going to happen next season or what's going to happen with recruiting. And I think something to keep in mind, and hear me out on this, right? It's going to sound a little strange, right? Don't take too much away from recruiting interviews ever. And let me repeat it. Ever. Don't ever look into a recruit's interview and say, "Oh, well, he's not." These are children, right? These are 16 and 17-year-old kids, and Quincy Wiggins, I think he's a great prospect. But number one, I still believe there's going to be a wave of decommitments once recruits can actually visit schools. And then number two, and this is very key as well, Quincy Wiggins plays a position where LSU is stocked. I mean, they are beyond loaded at defensive end. Now, that doesn't mean that Quincy Wiggins can't be, better than any one of the defensive ends that are currently on the roster right now. It's just you've used up so much roster capital on a position in defensive line and defensive end that could change a lot in the next year or so. And I do begin to think the position of defensive line will be changing some over the next year or so. Also, remember this: if you take in a defensive end, they don't do as much for you on special teams as other positions can do. For instance, defensive linemen are rarely on kickoff team or rarely on kickoff return. They are sometimes a personal protector on punts. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, that doesn't mean Quincy Wiggins can't be great. That doesn't mean I don't want him at LSU. I want him at LSU. But, I wouldn't stress too much. The only recruit you should really be stressing about right now is Emory Jones, because his commitment date is set for July 30th. Will he actually commit by then? I don't know. I really don't. I'm looking at a few things here. Let me see. I don't want. But yeah. The blaster. The master blaster. Jones and Wiggins will go to the same school. Yeah, Pegasus, you just hope he doesn't go to another West school. But yeah. Also understand this. There's a ton of value at defensive line in the state of Louisiana right now, okay? So in other words, like, if you still get Jamon Tapp, I still think that's a good defensive line class, right? Him and Taiji Hill, right? I think Hill is okay. I don't think he's a year one or possibly even year two guy. I think he's more of a year three type of contributor. But LSU they are ridiculously young on the defensive line. So I wouldn't worry too much, especially if Bryce Langston is the guy that, we expect him to be. What's up, Dexter? Good to hear from you. And once again, Wiggins can always go to another school and then transfer right back. It's just how it is. The last Madison Prep 4-star did that exact thing, and he's currently on LSU's roster right now. Let's see. He's a 5-star D that lives close to campus. Yeah, so I do agree with you. If he goes to another West school or Florida, that sucks. But yeah, he's an obvious take if he wants to come. But if I was him too, here's something else that was big for me. And I don't know about you guys, but this was a big deal for me. I grew up in a small town, but I knew when I was going to college, I was wanting to go somewhere that was not home for me. And some recruits are like that. Some people are like that. That feeling is mutual, right? I felt that. Yes, LSU was my dream school, but another thing was for me, getting away from the area that I grew up in. And I grew up, in a very nice small town, but I just wanted to experience something new. And some recruits want to just go somewhere else. If you live in Baton Rouge and you go to college in Baton Rouge, maybe there's some people you just don't want to be around anymore. Look, if I had a ticket to go anywhere in the country, I could totally get it. This idea, look, everyone here, if we were all Quincy Wiggins, every single one of us would pick LSU 12 times out of 10, right? We want to go to LSU. It's our dream school, and it could be Quincy Wiggins' dream school as well. But there is a huge difference in actually wanting to play for LSU and actually living and playing at LSU, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, true. And Pegasus, we didn't even mention Sabian Jones, right? So the one position where LSU is stacked the deepest right now on defense is by far defensive end and just defensive line in general. I also think there's no guarantee what type of defensive front LSU is going to run the year after this next one. I think it's pretty certain that LSU is going to stay in a traditional 4-man front, but we'll see. That's a good point, Preston. I get it. I totally get it. Is Wiggins better than Jamon Tap? That's a good question, Carvis. I've watched both of their tapes. Justin, we'll see you, man. I hope I didn't anger you. I'm just kidding. Justin's been in here for a while now. I appreciate your support, my guy. Rai with the super chat. So Rai, you pick the next question. I'll go ahead and answer this one from Carvis really quickly. I think they're about the same. I do think I would say Wiggins is slightly better. I don't know if there's really that much of a gap between those two. You think Tap's better? I totally get it. He's a good player. But really honestly, predicting defensive end is really a crapshoot. Like, I don't think I don't think anyone in their right mind thought Arden Key would be the only double-digit sack guy post-2000 at LSU, and he still is the only one. So yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to predict, great defensive ends. And LSU's had a lot of great defensive ends, but they haven't necessarily had a lot of bend the edge type of pass rushers. Should we take both? I would, Carvis. Yeah, I would take both of them. I'll tell you this. Even though they play different positions, I would take Tap and Wiggins over Hill, even though Hill's a defensive tackle and the other two are ends. What I think is going to happen is more ends are going to become defensive tackles over the next 5 to 7 years. I can easily see that happening. You look at the best defensive tackle in the NFL right now, He's probably the best player in the NFL right now, and he's already one of the best players of all time, is Aaron Donald. And if I'm not mistaken, Aaron Donald, his 247 profile from way back, people thought he was going to be a defensive end. So it's very interesting. You see exactly, Carvis. We're thinking the same thing. Even though he's not a defensive tackle, I could see more of those types of guys. And this is just my view on defensive line play. So I was a pass rusher in high school. So on 3rd and long, I would get brought into the game. And, the biggest change for me, and this was such a huge advantage for me when I came in the game, was the offensive lineman was used to blocking, someone that the guy in front of me was like 6'2", 280. And I was walking in there, 5'7", 185, 190, whatever I weighed at the time. I definitely don't weigh that now. And them blocking a different type of body was different. So I think, going back, and we've discussed this before as well, I think it'd be very smart if LSU, I would rotate the heck out of that defensive line. Also, one thing I would do as well is, man, I'd put Damon Clark at pass rushing and or tackle. He bullied. I mean, the end of his year was freaking incredible in 2019. The Clemson game, the Texas A&M game, he was unreal. It was really unreal. Some of the things he did as a pass rushing specialist. And a lot of that had to do with, a defensive tackle. You're blocking Rashard Lawrence, who is a bull with very strong hands. And then Damon Clark comes in, and the guard would think, okay, he's just going to try and run right by. No, Damon Clark would just bull rush. And it was a fresh body, a different type of athlete. And, I'm a big believer in that. If you have the bodies, do it. Do it. Something else that you get out of that is when the quarterback bails out of the pocket, would you rather have the defensive tackle chasing him be Neil Farrell, or would you rather the guy chasing him down be a linebacker who runs 4.6? Well, it would be the linebacker. And LSU is playing some very mobile quarterbacks compared to last season. It wasn't the case. So what I would do on 3rd and long is my pass rushing package would be potentially Clark, Gay, Ojolari, and Anthony as my race car package. But there's so many different things you can do out of it. Okay, so let's go to Rai. His super chat is touch on this a second ago. I don't have a question as much as a statement. I feel as if a team loses a player to the portal before the season, they should get the scholarship back. So here's what I'll do, Rai. I'll share both sides of the argument here. The Dare Rosenthal thing really sucked. And in theory, if a player has the ability to leave, LSU should have the ability as well to get someone to replace that player. So here's the danger in that. What smaller schools fear is Alabama, the players that they don't want, they'll open up 10 spots in the portal and you can join and immediately play, and then you're forming basically a super team. And I mean, Alabama's teams are already that super already. But a lot of people feel as if that could happen. So I get it, right? What I think is going to happen is they're going to experiment that if you lose 2 current players, you're allowed to replace them with someone else from the transfer portal. But what could happen is your scholarship, and this is very key to know, your scholarship is not guaranteed. The only guarantee you have out of a scholarship is for that one season. So a school could process you if you're not any good, and they could do that anyway. But the incentive to do that would become even higher if that were to happen. Maybe put a limit. Yeah, I think 2 would be a good number. Pegasus says, I think more of those DE types are becoming tight ends these days. It is. You know what? You want to know something interesting, Pegasus? This is kind of like a side point here. Who do you have in that first game, Georgia or Clemson? I'll go with Clemson. But this is kind of a side question, Pegasus. I'm trying to remember if it was one of you asked me my thoughts, and it was a random question. So, like George Kittle and Travis Kelce, they just held this tight end camp where all the best NFL tight ends get an invite, and they all come together and they all work together to become better. Even so, like Darren Waller and Travis Kelce, who play each other 2 times a year, they're in the same division. They're both working with each other to get better. So one of you asked me, why do players do that? Oh, it's simple. If all the tight ends in the NFL get better, that means you have to pay them more and everybody makes more money. So that's partially the incentive, and part of it is just, to be cool and help someone else out, mentor. But if you're a defensive end or a tight end, which one would you rather play? Well, of course, at tight end, you can catch the ball and play offense, but defensive ends make far more money. There are 25 defensive ends in the NFL that make $10 million or more a year. Okay. So off the top of your head, I'll just ask you guys, how many, I think it's 25 defensive ends. It's over 20. How many tight ends in the NFL right now make 10 million or more a year? I want you guys to guess in the chat right now. Tyler, I'm going to go with our guy, Emory Jones. That should be your big focus. Emory Jones. All right, Preston says 12. Rai says 1. Give it your best guess. How many tight ends in the NFL make $10 million a year or more? The number might have changed recently, but give it your best guess. Big Al says 5, and he's right. Last year was 4. I think Darren Waller just got over 10 himself. So 4 or 5. So 20 plus defensive ends, or it's like 15 or 6. Anyway, there's far more defensive ends that make 10 million or more a year than tight ends. So it is fascinating because if you're a recruit, I think you do have to think about that, right? Like as far as what position you want to end up playing. That's true, Pegasus, but how many more tight ends are there than top defensive ends? That would be my next question, because oftentimes you look at the 247, defensive ends are oftentimes, or edge now, are oftentimes like the most populated position. I think it goes wide receiver, then defensive line. But yeah, you are right. There are more top tight ends, but I just think it's kind of like the NBA. I just think we're so positionless now because, like, do you really view Jake Johnson as a tight end? Not really. Like, I view him as Travis Kelce, right? He's a pass catching tight end. Oh, Paris, you did miss me. We'll get her back later. We'll get her back. It pays to be the treasurer of BHL. Feeling good, guys. 53 days to the season. Let's go. Who remembers this shirt right here and those gloves? Huh? Don't worry, Paris. We'll get Z back in here. You missed it all as well, Paris. Z was showing off her new chew toy that one of your super chats helped get. So I appreciate you guys supporting the Z Fund because the bills are bills. But honestly, I am happy we got another dog. I really am. All right, WME. We'll see you, man. Oh, yeah, the shirt. The Master Blaster, you've been quiet tonight. Fullbacks are going to become tight ends. That's true. Kyle Juszczyk. Jonathan. What's good? But anyway, Venmo, Cash App, Super Chat, you get to pick the topic. Obviously, if you cop yourself a PHL shirt, trying to find me it. Oh, Tony, you're driving tonight. I like it. We keep talking about QB1, who is going to be RB1. Oh, there you go, Paris. You super chatted earlier. We'll open up this discussion. Ed Orgeron did talk about it. So, yeah. Who is RB1? Has anything changed for you guys on who is RB1? Kiner. Tony's on the road tonight. Bech says that's the big question, right? It's Charles Turner. He's not RB1. He's a backup center. Or I would like Charles Turner to be RB1. Who doesn't want a running back, offensive line size, number 69? You know you love it. We got exactly 69 in the chat when I said that too. That's smooth right there. Or that's nice. TDP. All right. TDP solid. I think he does have a ceiling. So he's good, right? I think he's more Nicholas Brissett than he is like Jeremy Hill. I think he's closer to Nicholas Brissett than Jeremy Hill. And once again, Nicholas Brissett was really good. You can win a lot of games with Nicholas Brissett. We did in 2018. He's a really good back. But Jeremy Hill is obviously an exceptional back. I think TDP is in the middle there, but probably a little closer to Brissett. But Ed Orgeron says he's trimmed down. Obviously, TDP had a good spring game. But we'll see. I mean, I think, honestly, it's going to come down to who can catch a football out of the backfield. So we'll see. And obviously, health plays a big role. TDP. Let's see. TDP power, Emery speed. I agree with that, Amacat, to a certain degree. So what I'm about to say has a lot to do with run blocking, but TDP had a lot of short yardage carries, and not so many of them were necessarily converted, if you get what I'm saying. Lots of 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s, and we just didn't get that yard. Okay, now once again, a lot of that is run blocking. But yeah, it's very interesting. Let's do this. Let's go ahead in this poll right here. TDP is that guy. I hope so. Also, shout out to TDP. Just had his first kid. So yeah, proud of him. He has joined the dads of PHL, and we have quite a few of them. which unit will be better in 2021, defense or offense? Kind of shocked that many of you said the defense. Roughly 2 out of every 3 of you said the defense. That is true, Amacat. And you know, TDP does have experience making these types of carries. It's just hard. Like, some running backs may not be that great, but they're really, really good at getting you that yard, right? So, you know, I had 2 names that come to mind right off the top of my head is obviously, you know, Jacob Hester. He's the best short yardage back maybe ever at LSU. And Stephen Ridley. Neither one of those guys were elite athletes. Both of those guys were 3 stars. But goodness, they were tough son of guns, man. They always picked up that yard. Okay. There is an art to short yardage running back play. Now, full disclosure, both of those guys had far superior offensive lines than the ones TDP and Emory had to run behind last season, but still. But yeah, this is interesting. So how many of you voted that the offense would be better than the defense? How did you guys vote in the poll? Let's go. Love this picture, Cliff. Let me show you all this photo. This is one of the best PHL photos we've seen. Look at Cliff. And how dope is that? That makes me emotional right there. Right in front of the best place on the planet, Tiger Stadium. Here's Cliff. How cool is that? Right there. I love it. I freaking love it. Good photo, family. Jonathan, no. It's way too early to do that. Let's see. Cliff, that's cool. Huh? Amacat said defense because of our D-line, Ricks and Stingley. Okay, so Jonathan, I'll touch on the Cardell thing just for a little bit. It's way too early. I think 2019, the injury is just so vicious. The story of the injury is just bad. Torrey Carter accidentally just folded his leg in half. So, you know, that year of development was wasted. Then, obviously, you know, you give him this year to get prepared. But now going into year 3, he doesn't really look like he's going to be a part of the lineup. I give him year 4. I give him another year, you know, and if he doesn't play by year 4, then maybe you can call him a bust. But yeah, and I also think it's a good valuable lesson to not make high school recruits. And I know I talk about them on this channel, but normally if you watch my recruiting videos, even when we're doing film studies, it's never necessarily about the recruit. It has more to do with how they fit in with LSU, right? And this kind of ties in with what we were talking about earlier about Quincy Wiggins. Obviously, Quincy Wiggins is a really good prospect, but you then get into what do you need? Like, what do you need right now? And need is very important because obviously LSU is just so loaded at a defensive end moving forward. So, it's very interesting. Jared, where you been, guy? There you go, Mo Funky. You're. I love it. I highly recommend everyone watch our Havoc video from earlier, and it should get you excited about the LSU defense, right? And I'll tell you this, so I understand that on this channel, I could be critical of the coaching staff and all of that, but you have to give credit where credit is due. I gave Ed Orgeron a lot of praise in today's video because it's so hard during the course of the season to really have a grasp on what the issues are with the team, right? And the reason why I say that is because you really have to look at the film. You really have to watch every game and then rewatch the game. And then after the rewatch, this is how I take notes. I rewatch a game and then I take notes of a player that I just want to focus on. So what happened was during the transfer portal, we were so dead set on getting another offensive lineman, and LSU decided to spend their final slot on Major Burns. And I was hoping Kendall Daniels wasn't going to come. I know that's where Ed Orgeron wanted to go with it. I'm glad it worked itself out that Major Burns was the final slot. So one thing I give Ed Orgeron a lot of credit for was in the piece earlier, I shared the exact quote from Ed Orgeron, basically saying what my video was about, but months ago. And I didn't necessarily, and I kind of disagree with what he had to say in the quote, but he was saying what the video was talking about today. So he was recognizing an issue. Also, Ed Orgeron this offseason made no mistake about it to say that he really wanted to get as many safeties as he possibly could. I disagreed with it at the time, but when I rewatched the games, I was like, guy, he's never been more right about anything in his life. LSU safety play last season, even with the bad scheme, even with the bad coaching, even with all of that said, was so bad. It was so bad. And I understand, once again, Bo Pelini 4-3, coaching and all of that. Ed Orgeron was right. He was right. So, it's I understand Ed Orgeron knows what he's doing, but, you have to give him credit when he is right about something. And initially I was like, okay, our safeties were not great last season, but I don't think Major Burns is necessarily a necessity. But he was unequivocally right about getting another safety in the portal. Unequivocally. LSU safety play was not great. And a lot of that had to do last season with defenses changing, but more so offenses changing in the SEC. And I think Ed Orgeron recognized that and said, look, we just need to get as many safeties as possible, and the best ones will play. Oh, I get it, Jared. Good to see it. Mason Smith, breakout star. Not a bad pick. So I give Ed Orgeron a lot of credit for that. I really do. Agent Zero. Good, Jared. I know it's tough on you out there. Bruce, this is an interesting comment. What do you think about Stewart's comments on not wanting to be recruited by NAL opportunities? He wants to focus on playing football instead. Okay. So I think you're referencing, I didn't read these comments. I don't know what comments you're talking about, but I think you're referencing Evan Stewart, the 5-star wide receiver. So for those that don't know, I did a long piece on Evan Stewart a few weeks ago about, LSU hasn't had an out-of-state wide receiver. Haven't needed one. It's been all Louisiana wide receivers this past decade, but I would make an exception for Evan Stewart because he's really good, right? So I didn't know this about Evan Stewart at the time. He is a TikTok sensation. Like, he's got millions of followers on TikTok, and 2 million followers on TikTok. And it's interesting because, I love TikTok. I think it's great. There's some really good creators. It's not just all dancing, but Evan Stewart's TikTok is like a dancing TikTok. It's not like cheesy dancing, but it's just very simple dances, and those do well on TikTok. They're short, they get looped, and the way that algorithm works is if you do short dances, it works. So he has over 2 million followers on TikTok. And he said, I'm guessing the quote he gave, Bruce, I haven't read this, but I'm guessing he said he doesn't want anything to do with the NIL, and he just wants to focus on going where he feels the best as a football player. Totally get it. But even if he was wanting to go somewhere with good NIL opportunities, LSU is probably the best bet. You look at the two biggest stars in the NFL at wide receiver, and I'm not talking about the two best wide receivers. We're talking about the two most culturally relevant wide receivers in the NFL right now. It's Odell Beckham and Justin Jefferson. Twitter, social media, video games, marketing deals. Those two are two of the five biggest. Odell's by far the biggest, but Justin's definitely in there as well. So yeah, it is interesting. If you want to be a star wide receiver, you go to LSU, right? So yeah, if I was Evan Stewart, I'd focus on football as well. But I mean, come on, he's a 5-star wide receiver, and if you got 2 million TikTok followers, I would cash that baby in, baby. Huh? Pretty sure Coach O was insinuating that Max was the better quarterback. I just don't know. All right, what was Big Al's dad joke? Luca. I like that name, Luca. I cooked a pizza and didn't have a pizza cutter, so I used a Bryan Adams CD. Yep, it cuts like a knife. I don't know who Bryan Adams is, but I like the visualization of the CD as the pizza cutter. I like that. Big Al, it didn't hit me. I'm not a Steelers fan, but half their team is like TikTok superstars. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I honestly don't know. I really don't. Okay, he has a song, Cuts Like a Knife. I figured that was the punchline. So Rai got the joke. Dang, a Canadian getting that joke? I like that. I like that. Oh, he's a Canadian singer. Oh. There we go. I guess I'm not the Bryan Adams demo. I love it, man. Let me see. Bryan Adams. I can't play one of his songs. I would get demonetized. If his music is trash and I listen to this right after, Big Al, I'm moving Rai the treasurer. I'm too young? Look at all this gray hair. You should do a film study on Bryan Adams. Jamal Adams, yes. Bryan Adams. Oh, is he the one that did the song, Is This Love That I'm Feeling? Oh, here we go. Cuts like a knife. Oh, the CD cover is ridiculous. Oh, he was a leather jacket guy. Oh, man. There's never been an artist that's ever had a hit in a leather jacket. There's never been one. I mean, which artist would ever wear a leather jacket? I mean, that is a bold fashion statement there, Bryan Adams. Is this love that I'm feeling? From Kingston, Canada, married to Alicia Grimaldi. He was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Interesting. Oh, Whitesnake? I've never even heard of Whitesnake. I just know the song. Ooh, agua. Okay, apparently we got a lot of Whitesnake fans in here. God bless. We can't do a PHL meetup now because we do it and we get a DJ and you guys request some Bryan Adams. The party's not going to be lit. All right. So we're hour 42 in it, and we'll do this for about 5 more minutes, unless of course we get super chats. If we get super chats, we'll go all night. Okay. The other night, the Master Blaster kept dropping $10 super chats, and we just kept going all night. So Bee Gees, oh yeah. Oh, Bryan Adams did Summer of '69. I didn't know that. Okay, that's who that is. All right. We needed an actual song. All right, guys. 5 minutes. Throw your LSU questions this way. Obviously, if the super chats continue, we will obviously keep going. Keep on going. And we got some Van Halen love in here. That's fine. All right. Paris, this is a good question. Hey, Carter, I'm saving for a trip either to see Coach K in his last season or LSU. I'm leaning towards Coach K. What do you think? Yeah, Paris. So I know you're a super NBA, or you're just a super fan of everything. So I'll share this story, and I don't share a whole lot about my previous jobs. So I used to actually work with Coach K. So I was at LSU. I dropped out, and I took I didn't drop out. I took an internship at SiriusXM. So I took a semester off classes, and I moved to DC. And my first job was being the producer of Basketball and Beyond with Coach K. And I did it for a year, and it was the year that Duke won the national championship with Nolan Smith, Kyle Singler, and John Shire. Okay, so I got to know Coach K a little bit. The funny thing is I never introduced myself. So I would just be the button pusher, and the executive producer of the show, my buddy Jeremiah, would be the one that did most of the talking, but I would talk and say, we're ready to go. I was pushing the record button and all the buttons and all of that. So yeah, I'm a fan of Coach K. Now, I'm not a fan of Duke. I know it's kind of weird, but I just never really got into the Duke basketball thing. I like Jay Billis. I like JJ Redick, Corey Maggette, whoever you want to mention. But yeah, I would go see Coach K. If you can get a ticket, I would definitely go see Coach K. I don't know what Duke basketball is going to look like post John Shire. And they also had that Zion Williamson guy. Good night, Big Al. We'll see you Saturday night. Dylan, what's good? So yeah, I would do the Coach K thing. Paris. Tristan. Oh yeah, we're getting closer to the season when our Bama guys are coming in here. What's up, Tristan? I love Duke and LSU the same. I get it, Paris. So yeah, I would go see Coach K. I would definitely go see Coach K. I would like to meet Coach K one day and say, like, hey, we used to talk a bunch, even though I never introduced myself. It was kind of strange. So thanks for that super chat, Paris. Trania says, got word Max is taking first reps. Perkins to LSU, what do you think? Dylan, I would go nuts, right? I would go really nuts. Let's hope. One could only hope. If he doesn't go there, hopefully he doesn't go to A&M. I loved watching LSU beat Duke that one year. So, Amacat, that happened when I was in high school. And my best friend, his name was Z. And we actually named our dog after, my best friend. And he bet me the LSU Duke game, a friendly $5 wager. And man, that was such a great win. You have to admit, that's one of the more satisfying wins in LSU basketball history, right? That's definitely the most satisfying basketball win, beating Duke. I had more fun watching LSU beat Duke than I had watching LSU beat Kentucky in the PMAC with Ben Simmons. So, yeah. Yeah, I can't. Dale is really, really awesome. I'm not gonna lie, he's top notch. You want to know a crazy story, Tristan? We appreciate the love, man. You want to know a crazy story about Dale Brown, and this is a deep cut story. Cody Worsham, who's now at the LSU Sports, he was my first editor at Dig, and he shared the story about Matthew McConaughey visiting LSU's campus because he was getting ready for We Are Marshall, and McConaughey went to LSU's campus to learn how to become a coach from Dale Brown. He was always a big Dale Brown guy. I don't remember the full story, but I got to meet McConaughey at an LSU game. He was on the sideline for a game, and I was covering the game for media. And yeah, that was cool to see that. So yeah, Dale Brown. There's so many legendary stories about Dale Brown that are out there. It's wild. He was such a he's such a wild human being. everything that man got to do in his life. It's unbelievable. Denver Harris to LSU, I hope. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Dale, I know this is LSU football, but come on, it's Dale freaking Brown, man. Dale Brown. LSU's gotten pretty lucky to have some pretty legendary coaches in other sports. So they had Dale Brown and obviously, Dede Bro, Skip Bertman. So yeah, it's insane. So yeah, and getting a women's basketball, Pokey Chapman, Van Chancellor. It's wild. LSU's had some really legendary coaches at its university. Tyler, I like the two that they picked. I think it was two great ones. We have a great coaching staff for all of our sports right now. So yeah, I would agree with that. Carter, what's the latest scoop on Emory Jones? Me and Cheryl want to know. Shout out to you, Cheryl. We'll see on July 30th. You should feel pretty good about it. I think 80, 90%. Here's the thing. I analyze the recruits. I'm not really a crystal ball guy. I don't know. I think crystal balls are, I understand the purpose of them. I just think when you're trying, obviously I guess, but when you're trying to guess what a 17-year-old kid wants to do, it could get volatile. So we'll see on July 30th. It would not shock me if he pushed his date back again. I wouldn't be in any rush to commit. I wouldn't either. Hope we can get Perkins and Murphy with tall and crazy linebacker room for next year. We're going to need it. Yeah, I can see that, Dylan. Linebacker will need a replenishing, especially if, we'll see what happens here with Greg Penn. We'll see what happens with Josh White and Antoine Sampa. So we'll see. Have a feeling that Emory Jones will sign with Bama. Well, once again, I hope not, especially knowing the playing time he can get it off at the line pretty quickly. But yeah, all these universities are great. I try and be as honest and not biased about LSU as I possibly can. It's hard not to because we're all big LSU football fans. But all these universities are great. I mean, legit. They all have great facilities. They all have wait staff and great coaches and tutors and now the NIL opportunities. If I was Emory Jones, I'd sign with LSU because that's my dream school. But I totally get wanting to go somewhere else. I get it. Yeah, I hope not either. Well, there we go. Once again, last call for Super Chats. If not, we're going to go ahead and wind this thing on down. Don't forget, this is very important to watch this right here. Let me pull this up. Steven with the $10 Super Chat. So we'll hang out. Thank you, Steven, for your support. Why not remind you of Devin White? Anytime we could talk about Devin White, we should. All right, Steven. It was your super chat. It's your topic. So, Steven, whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. We are close to 2 hours. Normally, after 2 hours, I'll open up to non-LSU football-related questions. So that's perfectly fine as well. Did anyone hear the interview with Quincy Wiggins on the Jordy Culotta show? It was very weird. So, Steven, someone else brought this up earlier. Okay. Now, I didn't listen to it. A few of you have brought this up tonight on the live stream. Okay. I'll say it once. I'll say it again. Quincy Wiggins can. It's kind of hard when you're 16, 17 years old and you're talking over a phone. Well, it depends. What just after the Alabama visit. Okay. So tell me this. Was he in studio or was it over the phone? That's obviously a very important thing. Was he actually sitting there or was he doing it over the phone? I bet that's how they got Slade Bolden and Cam Robinson from LSU. Okay, so it was over the phone. All right. So I want this to be known. When you do a phone radio interview, and this is coming from someone that has done hundreds of radio hits and has hosted a bunch of radio interviews, there are so many things that can go wrong, right? If you're doing a live interview, there could be feedback. And what I mean by feedback is you're hearing yourself in the phone, all right? Those things happen with the connection. So that could be it. And maybe he didn't want to bring it up. But once again, I don't know exactly how it went. So someone enlighten me. Was he struggling to complete sentences? Was it pauses? Was it, or where is weird? Jordy could have been catfished. It was that wild. He sounded like he was still sleeping. Yeah, true. I'm not going to lie. He was very short answered. Okay. So the first thing you would need to do, all right, and this is key for all athletes, the first thing you need to do is go listen to other interviews that he's done. If he short answered in there, then it's not really, it's not really too uncommon. Also, there are plenty of athletes that give not so great phone interviews. Okay. A really famous example of this is Jerry Jeudy, right? He's horrible over the phone with interviews, and he got a bad radio host who asked him very bad questions, and it made it even worse. So he has some bad ones out there. It's not easy to do those, okay? Especially now that the younger generation, when do they ever even talk on the phone? When younger people talk on the phone, they're FaceTiming other people, right? Or they're texting or TikToking, whatever. So being on the phone is also just weird. Most recruiting visits aren't just phone calls or FaceTimes and Zooms or whatnot. So that's also weird. It was also very early. I know Kalana shows in the morning. So yeah, Jordy's a really good interviewer. I've listened to plenty of his interviews. His Dave Aranda one was really good. So I'm guessing the questions were pretty fair. Jordy's a pro. He's excellent. So yeah, I don't know, Steven. I'd have to go listen to it myself, but I can understand because what makes interviews with recruits so interesting is that they're still deciding on what they want to do. So it's hard to give decisive answers, especially live in a radio format where you're not necessarily being able to see the other person on the side of the phone. And that can also lack a bunch of context. Also, something else that happens in phone interviews, and it happen far more often than you think. Quincy Wiggins might have woke up, and I slobbered again. This happens when you talk for 2 hours straight. But anyway, Quincy Wiggins might have woke up, and his dog could have been biting at his ankles. That happened to me once with Bug. I was doing a live radio hit for WWL a few years ago, and Bug was scratching at the door the entire interview, and the interview got awkward because Bug started acting strange for whatever reason. So there's so many things that can happen, or the phone interview or whatever. I will, Stephen. I'm very fascinating. He was wide open and charismatic in his first interview. Okay, now I am really fascinated by it. Yeah, I'm guessing, Mo Funky, your answer is probably a little more direct. Yeah, Tyler, they're 17. Here's the thing. The only time you will ever hear me bash a player, okay, is when you really start to be a nuisance, right? So Quincy Wiggins, he's uncommitted, okay? Totally understand an awkward interview. Eric Gilbert, I was very forgiving for him at first, but the way that entire ordeal was handled is a little bit different. There is justifiable criticism of committing somewhere else and then going back on it and then coming back to take classes and then this. So I always try my best to be careful. If I'm talking about something that is not necessarily football related. Let's go, DRC. I love it. Huh? DRC just came to the live chat and said, I'm rocking my shirt. I've gotten a lot of people sending us photos of their shirts tonight. We showed that photo of Cliff earlier. If you want to be like DRC, get your shirt right now. Clint said the so-called Alabama analyst said Jerry Jeudy was the best route running wide receiver coming out of college. I think Jamar and Jets were way better route runners. I'm not going to lie. Jerry Jeudy is a filthy route runner. Of course, I'm going to pick, Justin Jefferson as a better, route runner. Jamar's a great route runner, but that's not how he wins. He could beat you in a more variety of ways. But Jerry Jeudy is a filthy route runner. You're honestly just, you're picking Picasso or Rembrandt or Seurat in that aspect. They paint different styles, but they're all time greats. Thank you, Steven. Go ahead and get you one, my guy. But yeah, you can make a strong case that Jerry Jeudy is his route running literally is unreal. Obviously, I think Justin Jefferson's a better route runner. I think he's the best route runner in the NFL, but that's probably my bias speaking there. But yeah. That's essentially saying, well, sometimes you got to give credit where credit is due. Now, if I had to pick an NFL wide receiver between Jeudy and Jefferson, I would still pick Jefferson, but Jerry Jeudy has Drew Lock throwing him the ball. Okay. And Kirk Cousins isn't great, but he's better than Drew Lock. Yeah. And also, Stephen, to follow up on that, because your comment had so much to do with the interview. Wiggins does happen to play a position where LSU is unbelievably deep. Okay. I can argue in recruiting this 2022 class, defensive end is the position that LSU needs the least. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't. I've gotten a lot of Quincy Wiggins questions lately. I just wouldn't put too much stock into it, right? There's only a few recruiting things that could happen that would make me go DEFCON 1, right? Will Campbell decommitting, Jacoby Matthews decommitting, Walker Howard. That would be a DEFCON 1. That's when you should panic and smash the panic button and say, what is going on? But that's not happening. Jared, I appreciate the $20 super chat. Thank you so much. So yeah, And what me saying that is not saying Quincy Wiggins is not a really good defensive end prospect. He is really, really good. It's just not a situation where you absolutely have to land him. Yeah, Clint, Cole Taylor. Once again, me and Jared. Let me show you what I'm. Jared and I are hanging out next time I'm in Bama. Where's your card, Jared? I think I lost it. Oh, here it is. It's right here. Jared, this is yours right here, man. Yeah, Steven, so he is in that range, but he doesn't play a position like those three guys do. That is just an absolute gigantic need. So that's part of it. And I honestly, I just don't. I think Quincy Wiggins is really good. I just don't think he's as good as those three guys. So yeah, that's just my personal evaluation. Obviously, everyone has their own personal evaluations, and that's not a knock on Quincy Wiggins at all. There are some guys that I like more than others, and that's just how I see it. Once again, when their senior tapes come out, a lot of evaluations are going to change up. But, take, for instance, Quincy Wiggins versus Emory Jones. Not only do I think Emory Jones, plays a more valuable position, I do think, even though they're about the same talent level, I think Emory Jones is better. I do. But yeah, Quincy's really good. He's really good. And yeah, he's an obvious take. So yeah, to follow up on the recruiting thing, you should go DEFCON 1 if the Emory Jones thing doesn't happen. That would be a ginormous loss. Once again, there's no such thing as a must-get recruit. There never has been, never will be. But he's pretty close. He's pretty close. As far as need and you look at the 2023 crop, doesn't look like there's a whole lot of Louisiana offensive linemen there yet. So, yeah. Clint says, did you hear if Cole Taylor picked up some weight and muscle after last year? After a deep dive, he looked tall and skinny. So the big Cole Taylor news actually happened today. So Jacob Hester asked Ed Orgeron about Jack Bech. It is interesting that Hester, pointed out Bech. I think a lot of people have questions about Jack Bech, and Ed Orgeron, brought up the tight end thing. He's looking for a wide receiver or a tight end that could stretch the field, right? And Cole Taylor, Clint brought up our Cole Taylor deep dive. Last year, he was not ready to play at a Division I level. Wasn't his fault. Eric Gilbert put him in a bad spot. But Cole Taylor's body was not ready to play against adults. I've always said Cole Taylor's a year 3 guy. Not a year 2, year 3 guy. If he's not an elite blocker and he's not an elite receiver, then yeah, you put in Jack Bech or you put in Nick Storrs, right? We've got a problem. We have too many Bama tickets. We have 2 extra if y'all need some. Jared, why don't you just ask me? I'll go with you. Can LSU build a great O-line with getting 5 stars and top 100 players? Yeah, they can, Justin. You go back to some of the great offensive linemen at LSU. 2007, that offensive line didn't have all that many elite recruits. 2011, their highest ranked recruit was a backup. So yeah, you can have elite offensive lines. The 2019 group didn't have, that many. Osadekis was the only top 100 prospect on that line. So yeah, you can have an elite OL with that elite prospects. It's just you're better off when you have the elite 5 stars like Bama does. $160 face value. So yeah, someone hit Jared up. Geeked up about Jack Bech and Sabian Jones. Yeah, those two can really play. They might be more year 2 guys, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Both are really, really athletic. But yeah, you can build an offensive line. One of the key things that needs to get fixed, though, is blitz pickup. That's going to be so key for next season. Bill, that's a good question. Honestly, don't know. I wish I knew. Yeah, Devonta Lee, I just don't know, man. We have no idea who the wide receivers are even going to be next season. Yeah, I would like Devonta Lee to be great. He's waited his turn. I always cheer for guys that stick it out. But he's a good special teamer, and he can help out. Ryan, that's a good point. What helps on a blitz is a running back that can catch and block. And we'll see. We'll see if Emory or TDP can do that next season. I know one running back who can catch. Coy Moore. Coy Moore looked really good in the 2-minute drill in the spring game. And, if I'm running a 2-minute and Coy Moore can give me some decent blitz pickup, you better believe I'm trotting him out there, right? And welcome to the chat, Ryan. We appreciate you for swinging by. Tuesday, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Is this your first time, Ryan? Let me know. I like Coy a lot. I really do. Oh, Coy. Let's see. Garrett Dellinger. Let's go. Now, we haven't really talked about him much tonight. It's amazing how much positive vibes he's been getting. Ryan, we appreciate you, man. Swing by more often, man. It's all live chats are always better with the Thibodeau in there, baby. You know what's interesting is like I look at these. I got an alert on my phone. A-Rod's company is thinking about merging with Panini Sports Cards, and I'm just such a sports card fanatic. It's just wild how these multi-million-dollar mergers actually happen, and you see like how many Fortune 500 companies don't even turn profit. And I'm like, how? Like, how does this even work itself out? Sometimes I just think money is made up. And it kind of sort of is, right? Baby Clyde, Corey Kiner, looking out for it. There we go. We reached a point in the chat where, we go into random thoughts. Garrett has a frame to be another OT. Yeah. I've always thought he was more year 2, but he's going to have to be year 1 now. So we'll see. I like that Dellinger's balling out and he's putting some pressure on Doomerville. So hopefully that works itself out. Well, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign this one off. Once again, we'll go until 2:20. And if we get any more super chats, we'll keep this thing going. What's up, Rain? Good to see you, man. What was I going to bring up to you, Rain? Oh, Rain. I feel bad, man. That Euro final. So iconic, man. Rashford, Saka, and Sancho. 3 subs. All the, man. I mean, you couldn't have picked a more diabolical finish. I mean, England had to lose in the most diabolical way. And went to Rome. All right, I'll keep hanging out if you super chat. It went to Rome. I hate Italy's national team too. So when I played soccer, I modeled my game after Andrea Pirlo. I was a center midfielder, and I was slow, and I knew the only style I could play was like Pirlo. My favorite player was Gerrard, but Gerrard was, the best athlete on the field every time he played. Pirlo was not. So for those that want to reference, Pirlo was more Jarvis Landry, and Steven Gerrard was more like a Odell type of player, an electrifying player. So once Pirlo retired, I just didn't care for Italy at all. I really wanted England to win, all right, because my guy Jordan Henderson is also, on there. But, it was just so diabolical. The ugly racism after the PK shootout and Rashford and man, dude, it was just so bad. And honestly, Gareth Southgate is the reason why England lost that game. Saka should have never been in the game to begin with. The PK shootout should have never been ordered like that. And this is also key. Southgate should have never played such a defensive formation. Just because you're winning the games doesn't mean you're actually doing the right thing. England was very lucky to be in that final. I get it. You need a lot of luck to win international tournaments, but England had an unreal amount of luck, and they get the final in Wembley. And what does Southgate decide to do with the best attacking bench in the world? He waits till the very last minute to sub in his attackers. And there you go. I hated England's formation. Way too defensive. Way too defensive. The Master Blaster was out once the soccer talk began. It wasn't that crazy, though. Well, Jared, hopefully your super chat was good. What's up, Ja? So, yeah, we'll go ahead and sign this off. It was fun, guys. It was a fun live chat. We'll see you tomorrow at 5:30. It looks to be another defensive film study dropping tomorrow. If you didn't catch the defensive film study from earlier today. Let's see, let's copy this link. I know. I'm like, do you really want Saka, who is 19 years old? Okay, so he is younger than freaking Miles Brennan or whoever taking the most important kick. You put him fifth? Link right there if you want to check out our film study from earlier. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Go Tigers, Coach O. Let's go. 53 days to the season. Let's go. Let's go.